across the silent vastness of space, where light traveled like a forgotten memory. Ancient civilizations once rose and collapsed in cycles too old for any living mind to fully comprehend. The galaxy was not empty. It was crowded with empires, each believing itself eternal, each eventually reduced to dust beneath the weight of time. Among thousands of recorded species, one subject remained absent from official archives, yet survived in whispered fragments passed between frightened scholars and encrypted myths. A civilization called humans. No confirmed records existed of their biology, their homeworld, or their true technological level. Only scattered references survived in outlawed data cores, describing them as highly adaptive, aggressively innovative, and dangerously emotional in warfare. Most galactic authorities dismissed these fragments as myth or propaganda from extinct civilizations trying to explain their own failures. But myths rarely disappear completely. They evolve. They hide. They wait. For centuries, the dominant power of the galaxy, known as the Dominion of Raal, ruled over thousands of star systems with unmatched control. Their fleets enforced order. Their technology predicted conflict before it began. Their doctrine was built on precision, logic, and overwhelming force. War, for them, was mathematics. And in that mathematical universe, chaos was considered extinct until the night the outer sensor grids detected movement beyond the mapped territories. At first, analysts believed it was debris or an abandoned mining convoy drifting off course. Nothing serious. The Dominion sent a single interceptor fleet to investigate, confident in total superiority. What they found did not match any known classification. The ships were old, asymmetrical, and visibly patched together from multiple eras of engineering. Their hulls carried scars of countless battles. Their design lacked elegance, but it radiated function. Efficiency born not from theory, but from survival. When the Dominion hail signal was broadcast, expecting surrender or confusion, the response came instantly. A single transmission. We are humanity. Leave this region or be erased. Captain Voren of the Dominion fleet ordered immediate threat analysis. The results made no sense. Their weapon's signature did not align with any known civilization. Their energy readings fluctuated unpredictably. Their formation shifted constantly, as if anticipating every possible attack vector before it occurred. Still, confidence prevailed. The Dominion had never lost a direct engagement. The order was given. Eliminate them. The first volley of plasma fire illuminated the darkness of space like artificial suns. For a moment, it appeared the human fleet would be erased instantly. But then something unexpected happened. The human ships moved, not defensively, not randomly, but with purpose that defied prediction models. They slipped through incoming fire, as if reading the future. Their return attacks were not overwhelming in number, but surgical in precision. One Dominion cruiser lost power instantly, as its core was punctured by a kinetic strike that bypassed all shielding. Another detonated seconds later when a missile impacted its reactor without triggering early detection systems. Within minutes, formations collapsed. Within an hour, communication channels turned into chaos. The Dominion had expected war. What they received was dismantling. Captain Voren attempted retreat coordination, but every escape vector was already compromised. Human ships were not faster in raw propulsion. They simply positioned themselves where escape would no longer be possible. The battle ended with silence. No Dominion vessel remained operational. Across the galaxy, intelligence networks began to fail as reports contradicted themselves. A myth was no longer a myth. The humans had returned, and they were not scattered remnants. They were organized, focused, intentional, and they were advancing. At first, the Dominion High Council refused to believe it. Entire fleets were dispatched to verify and suppress the reports. None returned intact. Panic was an unfamiliar sensation to an empire built on absolute dominance. Yet it began to spread. In distant sectors, colonies reported sightings of human strike teams appearing without warning. Supply chains were destroyed. Communication relays vanished. Defense systems failed in ways that defied engineering logic. Then came the first planetary loss. A mining world designated Kestrel 9 went dark within hours of contact. Surveillance footage revealed ground forces unlike anything the Dominion had encountered. Humans in adaptive armor moved through fortified cities with calculated brutality, targeting infrastructure before resistance could organize. When the Dominion attempted orbital retaliation, their weapon systems were hijacked and redirected against them. The planet was lost, not destroyed, captured. That distinction changed everything, because until that moment, the Dominion believed they were fighting raiders. Now they understood they were facing an invading civilization. And worse, that civilization had studied them. Deep within Dominion Command, Chancellor Varron demanded answers. The Intelligence Division revealed fragmented historical data, all pointing to a disturbing conclusion. Humans were not new. They were old. Older than most recorded empires. And they had once been erased. Entire sections of galactic history had been purged deliberately. Records of early contact between the Dominion's predecessor states and a rapidly expanding human civilization had been removed. Not lost, erased. Because humanity had once been judged too dangerous to exist, and an extermination campaign had followed. No one knew how many survived. Only that survival itself had been possible. Chancellor Varron stared at the classified archives in silence, realizing too late that what they were facing was not invasion. It was return, and return always carried memory, and memory always carried consequence. Human fleets continued to emerge from the dark edges of mapped space, growing in number with each encounter. Every engagement revealed the same truth. They were not improvising. They were executing a plan. A long one. A patient one. One written in silence across centuries. And somewhere beyond the edge of Dominion territory, humanity prepared for the next phase. The Dominion had faced rebellion before, had crushed uprisings, erased insurgencies, and silenced entire systems that dared question its authority. But what was unfolding now did not resemble rebellion. It resembled systematic collapse, as if every structure of power had been studied in advance and dismantled in perfect sequence. Fleet after fleet vanished into the dark, not always in open battle. Sometimes they simply stopped responding. Sometimes they returned as wreckage with no survivors and no readable logs. Sometimes they never returned at all. The Dominion war machine, once believed unstoppable, began to behave like a body losing its nervous system. Orders were still being issued, but they were arriving too late, or arriving at empty space, or being intercepted before execution. And at the center of it all, the same pattern repeated. Humanity was not reacting. Humanity was progressing, step by step, world by world, system by system. On the Dominion capital world of Vel R Prime, the High Council gathered in a chamber that once symbolized absolute authority. Now it felt smaller, suffocating, as if the walls themselves had learned fear. Admiral Teddick slammed a tactical report onto the table. "This cannot continue," he said. "They are not just winning battles. They are removing us from the board." Chancellor Varen stood still, eyes fixed on the shifting holographic map where entire sectors had turned red, then black. "How many fleets remain?" he asked. No one answered immediately. That silence was the answer. A scientist from the intelligence division finally spoke. "Remaining combat-capable fleets are estimated at less than 30%. But that is not the problem." Varen's gaze sharpened. "Explain." The scientist hesitated. "The humans are not escalating randomly. Every target aligns with something in our historical structure. Shipyards, archives, communication nexuses, command relays. They are not just fighting us. They are dismantling how we exist as an empire." A low murmur spread through the council. Another officer spoke, voice unsteady. "They are erasing our ability to respond at that moment." The lights flickered. Every holographic display in the chamber shifted simultaneously. Unauthorized signal detected, then the room went silent as a transmission forced itself through Dominion security layers. A human face appeared. No helmet, no distortion, just a calm expression carved from discipline and certainty. "I am Commander Elias Venn of Humanity," the voice said. There was no anger in his tone, only finality. "You will stop resisting. Not because we demand it, because your system no longer functions." Admiral Tarek stepped forward. "You are criminals, murderers. You cannot expect." Elias Venn interrupted calmly. "We do not expect anything." A pause. "We remember." The transmission shifted. Images filled the chamber. Burning worlds, destroyed human colonies, evacuations turned into massacres. Entire planetary populations erased under Dominion predecessor flags. Faces of commanders long dead. Orders signed in code language, describing extermination as stability enforcement. The chamber fell into silence so heavy it felt physical. Chancellor Faran's expression did not change, but something in his posture weakened. "That was centuries ago," he said quietly. Elias Venn looked directly into the camera. "For you." Another pause. "For us, it was yesterday." The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted into chaos immediately afterward. But no argument could reverse what was already unfolding. The Dominion was no longer controlling the war. It was reacting to it, and reaction was too slow. On the outer rim, human fleets entered Dominion core. Space, not in scattered raids, not in probing attacks, but in full formation. Entire armadas emerged from warp corridors that had been thought collapsed or impossible to access. Their arrival was synchronized across multiple systems, as if space itself had been mapped in advance. Defense networks activated too late. By the time Dominion ships responded, key installations were already gone. Shipyards burned in orbit. Communication towers fell silent. Military command hubs were replaced by static. And then came the ground phase. Human dropships descended onto capital worlds like falling judgment. They did not announce presence. They did not request surrender. They simply arrived and executed objectives. On Vel R Prime, the capital city, burned under coordinated strikes that targeted infrastructure first, population zones only. Second, Dominion forces attempted counterattack, but found themselves fighting enemies who already knew their positions, their tactics, their fallback routes. It was not war in the traditional sense. It was Correction! Chancellor Varron stood in the war chamber as alums screamed through every corridor. For the first time in Dominion history, evacuation protocols were being discussed for the ruling council itself. Then the final breach occurred. The doors opened without resistance. Human soldiers entered. Not rushed, not aggressive. Controlled. A small unit stepped forward, weapons lowered but ready. Behind them stood Commander Elias Venn once again. He looked around the chamber, taking in the collapsing empire. "This ends now," Venn said. Admiral Tarek reached for his sidearm. He never finished the motion, not because he was stopped by force, but because he understood, in that instant, that it would not matter. Chancellor Varron finally spoke. "If you destroy us," he said, "the galaxy will fall into chaos." Elias Venn shook his head slightly. "The galaxy is already in chaos. You called it order." Silence followed. Then Venn continued. "We are not here to rule your space. We are not here to replace your dominion." He stepped forward. "We are here to end it." The execution was not theatrical. There were no speeches after that. No dramatic resistance. The Dominion leadership was removed from power in a controlled and irreversible collapse of command structure. Across the Empire, systems stopped receiving orders. Ships without direction drifted or surrendered. Armies without leadership disbanded or were contained. And slowly, the Dominion of Raal ceased to function as an empire. It did not fall in a single moment of explosion. It dissolved through precision, through interruption, through total loss of control. Weeks later, what remained of Dominion space was unrecognizable. Worlds once governed by fear found themselves suddenly free, though uncertain what freedom meant without the structure that had defined them for centuries. Humanity did not occupy the empty throne. They did not declare galactic rule. Instead, a single broadcast was sent across all surviving communication networks. Commander Elias Venn appeared once more. "The Dominion of Raal is no more," he said. A pause. Those who did not participate in the extermination will not be punished. Those who did will not be forgotten. Another pause. "We did not come to conquer your galaxy. We came to finish a story you began." His gaze hardened slightly, and now it is finished. The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, civilizations across the galaxy began to understand a new reality. The humans were not a rising empire. They were a consequence. Not expansion, not invasion. Reckoning, and somewhere in the void between dying stars and new beginnings, humanity drifted once again into the dark. Not as legends this time, but as the final chapter of an old one.